God restores you beautiful blessings that you might recover for your giving. Tonight, on request, we will look at 2 Timothy chapter 1, verses 4, 5, and 6, and maybe 7. This evening, in 2 Timothy chapter 1, verses 4 through 6, possibly 7. Brooks?
Yes.
You go ahead and assist us this evening.
I'll be reading from the New International Version. Verse 4, I long to see you again, for I remember your tears as we parted, and I will be filled with joy when we are together again. Verse 5, I know that you sincerely trust the Lord, for you have faith of your mother Eunice and your grandmother Lois. This is why I remind you to fan into flames the spiritual gift God gave you when I laid my hands on you. It says, for God has not given us a spirit of fear and timidity, but of power, love, and self-discipline.
Thank you. I need you to read verse 16.
Okay.
Read it.
This is why I remind you to fan into the flames the spiritual gift God gave you when I laid my hands on you.
Okay. I mean, did you read it again? Because we have it. I need someone, when I get to verse 6, I want you to go ahead and get there right now. So when I get there, when I make mention of this translation, you go ahead and read it. The New Living Translation. Anyone who can, I need you to get the New Living Translation. All right. Let's dig in. See what we find here. I asked to take the question to tell you right in advance. I asked these one verse of scripture question. So you who were there a couple of Wednesdays ago will hear some of this over again. But I found something that I asked one of the verses a question, and I didn't get an answer from the question I asked the text. And I'll tell you the reason why I didn't get an answer to the text. The Lord be my help when we get there. If the Lord be my help. All right? Let's dig it. I'm looking from the New American Standard Version. He starts off verse 4 with longing. Longing to see you. Not only is he talking about longing to see him from the New American Standard, it also means yearning to see you. Paul here is telling Timothy, I'm going to use a secular term, or secular, I guess, terminology. I'll use it like this. I can't wait to see you, Timothy. Isn't it strange? No, it's not strange. Because it's not strange. I just said that, but no, it's not. It's exciting. Now, let's use this word. It's exciting when you haven't seen someone and I'll use the country term, in a cruise age or a long period of time, and you can't wait to see them. You're excited, you're enthused about seeing them. And the New American Standard says, longing to see you. Yearning to see you. Wow. Watch what else goes on in verse number 4. Not only does it talk about yearning to see him, or longing to see him, excited to see him, can't wait to see him. He says, even as I recall your tears. Now, he longs to see him. He can't wait to see him. However, he says, I will recall your tears. Watch this. The last time we met. Now, I want to ask y'all a question. Why was he, somebody said, he was crying. So, he says, I long to see you. And then he says, comma, after long to see you, he uses comma, he says, I recall your tears. Why does he say, I recall your tears, I recall you crying? Everybody know what he's saying? I long to see you, I desire to see you, I yearn to see you, comma, I recall your tears. The sentence shifts from longing and excitement to seeing him to recalling your tears last time we met. Well, my question to you, my brothers and sisters, is why does he say or make this statement, I remember or recall your tears? Now, I'm going to add this to that the last time we met, or last time we saw each other. Huh?
What? What's it? It says as they parted.
As they parted.
So, this is like when you see somebody go.
Hello, come on. That's it. Exactly. You're exactly right. He longs to see him, but he recalls the last time they met. He recalls his tears, or he remembers he was crying. They were departing. Paul was going to Macedonia. Timothy was staying at Ephesus. And so when you got a good close friend, y'all catch what I'm saying. When you got a good close friend, or a good close relative, you and that person tight, and when there's a departure, that brings about some tears because you are sad because you won't see them for a while or a long period of time. And that's what this is what has taken place. Paul longs to see him because he remembers the tears the last time they saw each other. Oh my. Now, the third phase of verse before. First phase was he longed to see him. Second phase is he recalls his tears. The third phase of verse before says this. Watch this. You see longing, you see tears. Now you're going to see joy. Watch what it says in verse 4 of 2 Timothy chapter 1. He says, so that I may be, watch this, so that I may be filled with joy. So look at all these elements that's in verse number 4. Longing, desiring, tears, sadness, joy, gladness. That when I see you, it's going to bring my joy. Now, watch this. There had to be a good, close relationship between the two of them. Because if there was not a close relationship, he said, I won't see him. I won't see her. Exactly. Yeah. Because watch this, they parted on bad terms. And so when you depart on bad terms, you are not longing to see somebody. You're not glad to see them. You're not filled with joy. No, she says, I'm just filled up with joy. I'm just filled with happiness. I'm filled with gladness when I see you, man. See you, sis. Can't wait. I just can't wait. I'm counting the days. I'm counting the hours. I'm counting the minutes when I see your face. I'm just skipping those days, just waiting, just skipping. I'm going to see her, I'm going to see him. I'm just skipping. Can't wait. Yes, ma'am.
I was just gonna say, but as Christians, we should always be like that.
Mhm.
Because even if you do, part of that turn,
Mhm.
part of that turn, you should be eager and can't wait to get back to amend that.
Mhm.
I mean, our spirit should,
Yes,
bother us to
Yes.
the point to where, I need to get whatever.
exactly. To make things, to make amends,
Mhm.
what's the word I'm going to use? To bring what was messed up together. And so you can't wait, since you bring that way, since you can't wait to get make amendments, you can't wait to see them, to make amendments, and watch this. I stole that, so you said something. And just to see their spiritual progress.
Right.
See that spiritual growth. And then watch this, and when you see spiritual growth, you can share some things.
Man.
Well, girl, and man, since I last saw you, such has happened to me spiritually. They said, shoot, you know what? That's what happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
You see spiritual growth, and then you see a connection there. Oh, yeah. Anybody else? Yes.
Yeah, but some people won't take the apology.
You ain't got to worry about that. We lose sleep over some stuff.
I know.
We do our part and leave the rest of God. Leave the rest of God. Leave the rest of God.
It's true.
Yeah. Do our part. Okay, that sounds like Dr. Stanley, doesn't it?
Just apologize whether they accept it or not.
Right.
And do your part. You done your part. And the rest is on them. Yeah. You just turn the young folks say, you do what you're supposed to do. You do the godly thing, keep the procedure going, and just keep it moving. Because the enemy, the enemy wants to cause you to be troubled in spirit, troubled in mind, because you know what you're supposed to do, but hey, they didn't accept it. Well, if we look at some things in the Bible, some things people did, which was right, people didn't accept it, but they kept it moving. Yeah, because it's all about kingdom work. As long as we do what is right, what is pleasing in God's sight, we have done our part.
Amen.
Yeah, we have done our part. We have done our part. Anybody else on verse 4? Before I run to 5. Let me read this. Let me read this. One of the reasons why Paul was filled with joy too, let me read this to you. Paul, listen to this, that I might be, what is that? I might be perfectly happy. Perfectly happy. Completely happy. Another one could say like this, that I may be, that my happiness may be complete. Another one says, that I may feel the fullness of joy. In these expressions and in this entire letter, we see the personal emotions of Paul, who was aged or older. And when I read some other things, Paul knew that his time was short. He knew his time was, his departure was at hand. And as I said last week, he was trying to pour all he could pour into Timothy. He knew his time was short. And he wanted to, I'm going to use a term, probably should use this term, but he wanted to clone Timothy. Now, if you're going to clone somebody, just do a spiritual cloning. So he was trying to spiritually clone Timothy to be more like the Lord most of all, number one, and to pick up some of his traits, some of his characteristics, and to also to forewarn him of some hard times, some tough times that he was going to go through as being a young preacher or a young pastor, young minister. Some things that Paul had already gone through. He was sharing some of those things with Timothy. It would help, and it did help Timothy when he got to those parts in his ministry that Paul told me this was going to happen. And Paul told me how to handle it, that I won't be frustrated. Because I heard somebody, not just studying yesterday, matter of fact, he was talking about leadership. He said there are some moments where frustration can hit. You'll be frustrated. He says, but I love this. If you ever read any of his writings or hear him in his preaching, he always talks about prayer. He said, some of you who hear him on a regular basis, he says, fight your battles on your knees. He said, basically he was saying, matter of fact, today he said something similar too. He said, my biggest thing when I have adversity in my life as a pastor, as a leader, I found out that when I go on my knees, God works it out. Now he said this, he said, now he don't come when I want him to come though. He does, he said, but he does show up. And he does move. Now, another thing he said, he doesn't move when way I want him to move as well. He says, so I've learned, because Dr. Stan's about 80-some years old. And he says, I've learned through my past experiences that I've accepted he may not come the way I want him to come, but I have accepted that he is coming. And he does work in his own way because, watch it, he knows what's best. He knows everything. He knows all things. So therefore, I've learned through my experiences that just accept what God has and in his own time frame. And I just lost my notes. I hope not, but I still remember. Thank you, Jesus. In that on 4. 4, go to 5. Okay, let's go to 5. Let's go to 5. Watch what he says in 5. And again, I'm looking at the New American Standard. Verse 5, he says, for I am mindful, watch this, of the sincere faith within you. He says, I remind you. So watch this. He's not only is he encouraging Timothy, but he's also recalling the sincere faith that he has in him. What he's also saying is that I'm recognizing that you are sincere with your walk with God. You're not playing with this walk. So he said, and this, I'm remembering how sincere you are with your faith. I see the sincerity of your faith walk, your spiritual walk with God. I see this sincerity. You're not playing, you're not shucking and jiving. You are real about your walk with God. You're real about your growth and your maturity in God. You're serious about this. Watch this. Then he goes on and he says that because the reason why he says this, he says, which first was in your grandmother. This same thing was in your grandmother. Lord. Not only Timothy wasn't in your grandmother, he says it was in your mother. Eunice. Now, you were with me a couple of Wednesdays ago. I asked the text a question. It talks about his grandmother. It talks about his mother. It does not talk about his father. So I asked the text a question. I said, why? Now, sometimes you ask the text a question, you don't get no answer, okay? I'm going to tell you that. It didn't tell me whether it was in his life, but it didn't tell me that it was something spiritual. Now, this is me, it's not scripturally, But I'm going on what I'm reading, okay? He got his biblical background from his grandmother and his mother. Excuse me, brothers, the women were prominent in his life. Not only did that's why he just said, he said, that's really what's happening today. We have men, excuse me, brothers again, we have men missing in action. And it's the mothers and the grandmothers who are pouring into young men, young women, especially young men, until they find a spiritual father, which is what Paul was to Timothy. But in the meantime, grandmama and mama was so poured into him. Into him, brother. Poured into him. And he says, I recognize this sincere faith you have because it has been from your grandmother or your ancestry poured into you. And so, I see it in you. I see it in you. It's in you. And at least you understand too, he said, Timothy was timid. He was a timid young fellow. He was kind of bashful. So Paul was again pouring into him, giving him spiritual strength, giving him some stability to stand in adversity and not be timid, and those type of things. He was pouring in. He said, what has been planted into you before, watch this, before I got to you? What was poured into you before I got to you is in you. It's in you. You don't really recognize what's in you. Sometimes we don't recognize what's in us till somebody tells us what's in us. Or till God shows us what's in us through somebody else. And so Paul had to give what I call a recognition. Recognition, and recognizing from his genealogical lines what was in him. Watch this. He reminds Timothy genuine faith, the prayers, the witness, and the faith of his godly mother and grandmother were central factors in his spiritual development. Not only that, but it was a genuine faith that Timothy would maintain, watch this, in spite of all trials which he might have faced in connection with his sincere faith. Wow. Wow. Anybody want to add to verse 5 before I go to verse 6? All right, we'll go to 6 then. Verse 6 says, before I go to 6, let me just see something there. Let me read something from the King James, New King James. Isn't it great? What you say?
I was just looking at Timothy too, how if he was persuaded.
That's where I'm going to go right there.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you're good. We're on the same place. Because in the New King James, I want to read the last part of verse number 5. I want to kind of deal with this for just a few minutes. The last part he says, I am persuaded it is in you also. Now the word persuaded means I'm convinced. Paul is telling Timothy, I'm persuaded it's in you. But not only am I persuaded, but I am convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt that it is also in you. I'm persuaded. And since I see the sincerity of your walk with God, your faith, can nobody persuade me any other way because I see what's in you and I'm convinced that you is in you too. That was in your grandmother and your mother. I'm convinced it's in you. It's in you. It's in you. Can I tell? Go ahead.
Would you say that came from him knowing his grandmother and his mother so well and the life that they
Yes.
lived? That
Exactly.
There's no doubt that they have poured that into him.
Mm-hmm. Now, that being said, Paul have watched grandmother and mother for a long period of time to be convinced or persuaded that this same faith is in Timothy. He had to watch their lifestyle. He had to watch their characteristics. He had to watch how they carried themselves. And he said, what's in them is also in you. Because I've been watching them for a long time, and I see that same thing that's in them in you. Yeah. And what we'll say to some of us who came up who were reared up in a Christian home, I mean, really reared up in a Christian home, guess what, y'all? Some of what was from my mother is in us. Yeah, it's in us. It's in us. It's in us. Because have you ever sat down by yourself in your house and said, yeah, Mom used to do that. Oh, Mama does that.
So we're convinced that you are a product of the same scenario. Yes. We're convinced.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. But we are, watch it, let's know where this came from. We are a product of our environment. So if we were raised up in a Christian home, we are a product of that environment. And that environment is in us. Wow. Wow. Anybody else on verse 5? This is good. This is good. Okay. So I couldn't do that 2 minutes ago. I couldn't ask these questions 2 minutes ago. Okay. Are we going to verse 6 now? Anybody on 5? All right, we're going to 16. All right. Look at 6. For this reason, I remind you, oh, look at here. This is New American Standard. For this reason, I remind you to kindle afresh the gift of God which is in you through the laying on of my hands. Sister Thomasina, from the NIV, read that again. What is it?
This is why I remain to fan into flames the spiritual gift God gave you when I laid my hands on you.
Okay, watch this. Before I go to NIV, who's got the New Living Translation? If you got it, go ahead and read it.
Which verse?
Verse 6.
Verse 6. This is why I remind you to fan into flames the spiritual gift God gave you when I laid my hands on you.
Notice what he says from the NIV and the New Living Translation. He uses a word that both of those verses say. Fan. Anytime you throw air to fire, it spreads. And so, literally, what was going on with Timothy, his fan was a spark. And so he had to fan the spark for it to be more like a flame. Notice I said earlier, Timothy was timid. And he says, and the New American Standard says, kindle afresh the gift of God through the laying on my hands. Let me say what I said 2 weeks ago. Oh, let me say this before I do that. Ooh, because I add some stuff to this. The gift. Let me do this first. Paul never, first off, let me ask you a question. Because I asked I text a question. And I didn't find it. If y'all have found it, please help Pastor out. I asked verse 6 a very profound question. I said, what was Timothy's gift?